And welcome to the School Maker Faire. Welcome to School Maker Faire Hangout. I'm Michelle Flubenka from Maker Media headquarters in San Francisco, California, and with me.
Hi, I'm Sabrina Merlo. I'm, I guess I can look in my own screen. I am program director at Maker Faire. I run the global licensing program for Maker Faire.
And joining us is Adam Campbell in Tunisia.
Adam Campbell, I'm a design technology teacher at the American Cooperative School of Tunis in Tunisia, North Africa.
Wow, great to have you with us. If anybody else is out there watching, it would be wonderful to. I put a link on the page, the Hangout page, for you to actually go ahead and click in, so you could join Adam and Michelle and myself for the conversation. We'd love to have you, and I think we can have up to 10 people inside, quote unquote, the Hangout. All right, here comes somebody, Daniel. Hello. And if we start to reach critical mass in terms of getting closer to 10, please feel free to please announce yourself by making a comment in the homepage of the Hangout, and also use that for Q&A as we get into that portion of the Hangout.
Great. So we're going to start with just a few slides to give an overview, to remind everyone about what we're doing and why we're doing it, and then we wanted to hear from anyone and everyone about their experiences and their questions. So.
All right. Well, I'm going to try to screen share this.
Daniel, tell us a little bit about where you are and what school you're teacher or parent or administrator for.
All right. I'm going to try to do this. Oh, I've got the feedback.
Yeah, that happens.
I've muted my audio, so I'm going to keep talking, but we're a very small school in the Central Valley, and we've done 2 previous Maker Fairs at our program and have been really successful.
Great.
In the Central Valley of California?
I'm sorry, I unmuted you now, and so I can hear your question again. I think I'm just going to go over to the tech side, and I'll keep my mute on, and I'll communicate in the chat section.
Okay, that sounds good. All right, so here, I hope you're seeing my screen share.
Yes, I am.
Go ahead, Michelle.
Yeah, we're going to mute it. Okay. All right. So,
let's see. I'm going to try giving you to and let's see if we can. There we go.
All right.
Okay.
All right, so we did an initial beta release of the School Maker Faire program during the Maker Faire Bay Area in May, and the scope of it is that we're really hoping that schools will start these events, and the projects and exhibits should be majority kid-made. The project should be from any discipline and interdisciplinary. The event should be free, and it really isn't an outward-facing event where you're bringing people in, as happened at the Park Day School, an event that Sabrina produced this weekend, the East Bay Mini Maker Faire. That one's really focused on the community. This one is focused on the school community and the students, teachers, and parents and administrators that are there.
So our Mini Maker Faire program is a program for cities and for city festivals, and the School Maker Faire program is for school fairs that are centered around the school community.
And we launched this event program largely due to popular demand. A lot of people were saying, like, how can I start a School Maker Faire? So we're trying to pull together examples and resources to share back out, and we've started that by putting together a playbook based on some of the experiences that we've heard from Adam and others, and we'll hear a little bit more from Adam a little later. And we just really want schools to be able to find one another, to learn learn from one another, and to connect with our brand, and to be able to pop up some of the things that are happening, some of the really exciting things that are happening in schools across the country, around the world, that we can highlight at both our featured fairs and at the mini maker fairs that are part of the global program that Sabrina runs. And this is a key focus of our work in really trying to find a more diverse future of makers that are, because everybody's a maker, and we just really want to pull a lot more of that into our magazine content and our fair content. So, next one.
Where are we? Here we are. Nope, that's not it, is it? I lost my pages by going all around. Here we go.
All right. So the things that we're providing are things that we hope will be helpful to everyone to get their School Maker Faire started, and we're really eager to hear from any of the School Maker Faire organizers what kinds of things you need, because we ourselves are not teachers. We are parents of school-age children, and we can imagine what we think would be useful in starting a School Maker Faire, but the best thing would be to hear from you. This would be really helpful, because then we can use that to create things that can be shared back out.
Right, but what we do offer is the playbook, as Michelle mentioned, some checklists, graphic assets, so the actual logo, the School Maker Faire logo, which ties you into the global network of maker fairs and the brand.
And some signage templates. Permission
to use the name Maker Faire, resources, and after concluding around this first round of fairs, we'll be able to share with you metrics about the impact of maker fairs and school maker fairs, a map of school maker fairs as they grow around the globe, and then also a community of like-minded folks who are your peers in producing school maker fairs. There's the logo.
So the idea behind the logo is that you don't go inside that blue box, but then you put your school name next to it. It's a stamp saying that you're a part of something bigger, but you're not like pulling up the rectangle or extending the rectangle. You're just using that logo and adding your school name. We have some guidelines for the ways we think you should do it.
Yeah.
We're interested in what other things that you're thinking about doing, and you could bounce those off of us. So far there are 44 of you who have fully registered, which is a huge commitment, and thank you. That's so incredible. We're really glad that you've all said that you're doing this, that you have done it, that you will do it again. And then it's more every day. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if it's 1,000 already. People who have expressed interest in it but have not taken the step of, you know, clearing it with their principal or their PTA or whatever internal process they have at their school. And then I've been doing some poking around and found 30 unlicensed fairs
I'm ahead of ourselves,
around the country. That I just through different Google searches and so forth, and a lot of them really align with what we think a School Maker Faire is, and some of them don't. So let's look at an example of what it is and what it isn't. So here's an example of, it looks a lot like it was labeled as a School Maker Faire, and I saw it and I thought, no. That I'm so excited that they had so many different disciplines, like they had art and science and technology. Lovely that they got kids thinking in lots of different ways. But what this doesn't have are those elements of hands-on interaction, some large projects. So this is really, we say no.
Here's a better. It's probably better to think about what we're talking about in terms of positive examples. I think that the contrast of text-based displays versus hands-on physical objects, interaction, engagement with other people, that's what we're after in terms of the feeling and spirit of Maker Faire. Working with tools, you know, interaction.
Creating things that you take home.
Larger scale collaborative pieces, that larger scale making together. Experimentation.
Mm-hmm.
And building, bigger projects maybe that were made by other folks or by a school group and after school that ends up getting to have sort of a play atmosphere?
This is a picture from Tunis, actually.
Awesome. Unusual experiences. And I think the other thing, and just in relation to that science fair model with the pop-ups or with the trifolds, it definitely kids showing their projects, but perhaps more in a physical manifestation versus a theoretical manifestation.
I really like this. I'm not a big fan of these wordles or whatever they're called generally, but I do love this list of what constitutes the flagship Maker Fairs. And I think this is a good guideline for thinking about the kind of range of projects that you might want to have. So using this as an element to inspire the kids to think about the kinds of things that they might want to highlight during the event would be great. Another way to, I keep forgetting I don't have the button.
Hold on. I keep doing that too.
There's another way to think about it, which is to think about some different areas. So this was listed under the Education Collaborative of Western New York, did a high school maker fair for a bunch of different high schools, which was at the Buffalo Science Museum, so associated with a global event that runs through Sabrina's program. And they had this list on their flyer of the different kinds of projects that they imagined, everything from the remote control community, drones and Lego, and alternative energy. These are a lot of the kinds of things that we have at our event generally. I like that they threw in a little joke with, they didn't include butchers, but butchers, bakers, and candlestick makers. I thought was pretty hilarious. But this generally is the kind of range that we're expecting there might be. And what we really want to encourage you to do is to think about sort of setting out that interdisciplinary range and then trying to find projects or encourage kids to go in those directions to fill a lot of holes. Not all the holes, everyone's unique, you don't need to do exactly the same thing, but just to make sure you have a nice range of projects. So,
is that it?
Yeah.
That was the ends of the slides?
Yeah.
Great.
Oh, no, there are more slides.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah? No?
Oh, yeah. There we go.
I just want to also put in mention that we have a way to fulfill a lot of these kinds of projects by going to Maker Shed. We have a lot of kits and books that can help your kids get started in these areas.
Yeah. Daniel, I don't know how's your sound? Let's try to unmute you. I'm trying here. Daniel's making some great comments. Let's see how you had some thought about activities.
Well, we've done it for 2 years now. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, great. We've done it for 2 years now unofficially, and it's been really successful. We are a K-12 school, so we wanted to make sure that we were reaching an audience that was pretty broad, and so having activities that were for preschool all the way up through high school was really helpful because families come together and there's something for all ages to do, and also a mixture of really short-term activities, something you can do in under 2 minutes, and longer-term activities like a sewing project that might take 20 minutes or longer. So a diversity of activities there too, because some families want to circulate through everything and others want to really stick at one station for a while and enjoy it. So we found that was helpful. And then the comment that was just made, I would advocate for that as well, specifically going out and finding groups that are doing interesting things and inviting them. So if you send out a blanket invitation, come and do something at our Maker Faire, you'll get a few kids, but going and saying to a particular student, that is amazing, how did you do that? Would you be willing to come and show other people that, that activity at our Maker Faire on this day, and then connecting with their parent and making sure that they get the invitation, because then they're proud and they're really excited about coming. So
yeah, I would agree with you that especially for a first time around, before people really get it in terms of this is a culture, you know, this is a school institution and everybody knows what the Maker Faire is and is thinking about it, that it does require a bit more legwork around encouraging people to participate and giving them a sense of, oh yeah, that project is totally worth showcasing and we want you. I was curious about the group making projects that you mentioned. How did you author those and produce those? Like who actually owned those areas?
Well, we combined. So some of our staff took on projects that they know would 20 or 30 kids could do all at once in different ways. And so our staff members led those. But then we also invited parents or individual students to have their own activities. So we just tried to make a variety of things. So I brought a bunch of cardboard, and we had a cardboard city, and we had staff members that were assigned to it, and also parent volunteers that would help operate that. Well, another group of staff, they're really fluent with the sewing machines. So we had the sewing machines out and a bunch of fabric and different activities doing with that. And another couple of parents were really interested in Arduino, so they had brought their things in to do that. And so we it was a mixture of staff and student and parent volunteers that accomplished all of that.
Great. And then how about the students showcasing projects? How well did that go, and how many were you able to have showcased?
We're a small school, so we're 300 students enrollment total, and we had about 35 students show their different projects. But we gave them several months advance notice that we're going to be doing this, and it would be really great to have something to show at the Maker Faire. And some of the kids brought in things that they had put together in an afternoon, with glue guns and wood, and that was just as great as the student that, built their own computer and spent several months working on it, because they all got to show off their work, they all got the opportunity to be proud, and they all got to answer questions about, oh, that's really neat, how did you do that? I think that the sharing part of the Maker Faire is the most underappreciated part of it, but I think that more than displaying all the different things that are out there and giving new ideas to new people, I think that the makers themselves get so much out of sharing their work that's what's most valuable to our school.
Yeah, I think that's...
Could I add something here?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, totally.
My name is Adam Campbell. I'm a design tech teacher I'm in Tunisia at an American school. And Daniel, we have a pretty similar situation. I'm at a K-12 school as well. We've got about 400 kids, and I started thinking about how you invited people from the community, or you kind of start with students, and then if their parents are doing something, that's something I've been struggling with. I didn't know who to make the Maker Faire for at the beginning. Yeah. And you guys said, okay, it should be inward facing, and that's kind of the stance that I took in the end, where students were really the center. And I actually requested that families didn't come. Only students were there. There were no parents, no other siblings. I wanted the focus to be on those kids at the school. And maybe that limited us in some ways. But maybe there's a slippery slope in there too, where if you invite the parents and then, oh, well, there's another community group that's doing this, it turns into like a full-fledged Maker Faire really quickly. So that's something I need to be aware of, and I want to do more with parents and extra volunteers, but I do want the focus to be on the student experience.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of room in the program for interpretation, around what way works for your school, and you're authoring it. I mean, you're putting in the time and the energy and the work. I think our model that we put out in the playbook, which is about, more than half focused on student work, maybe some 20% of community or parent projects, maybe some adult showcases, and then another, 20% on like group making activities. So actually people are making during the event as well. I think that's the rubric we put out there. It's not a hard and fast rule, and sometimes it's hard to get to that much student work if you don't have the time and preparation, to generate that kind of content. But again, the fundamental point is to celebrate making. And if you want to start, focus particularly on the schools and keep it, and work focused, I think that's the primary point of the event, is to celebrate making across disciplines in school, so that it's not just math and science, that it actually can showcase art and music and, games made up in PE, if that's, whatever it is.
You were both talking about the feeling and the spirit of the fair, and my number one tip is go to a Maker Faire. before you try and host a Maker Faire at your school, go to a mini Maker Faire. I went to one in Manchester in the UK, and then I went to the World Maker Faire in New York, and that really instilled the spirit of the fair, and I definitely brought that with me. So there's so many around that you can find one that are pretty close to you, but get to a fair, go check it out, and the feeling of sharing, and it's casual and relaxed, that kind of stays with you, and that was really important for me.
I think that's great advice. Our list of Maker Fairs where you can find out where one is near you is on makerfaire.com/map, or just search, find a Maker Faire or a Maker Faire Global, and it will come up. And then we have this year well over 150 fairs in 30 countries with over 1.2 million people attending. So it really is a global phenomenon at this point, and we're really hoping that the school Maker Fairs can connect to their local city Maker Faire so that they can both point really kind of amazing projects and encourage students to actually show in larger venues if they're of that ilk and inclination, as well as to kind of get the families and folks to think about celebrating on that city level as well.
I got a lot of ideas too. I saw cool stuff at the Maker Faire. It's like, oh, I can do that. You don't have to make it up yourself. You can say, oh, I can take this idea or borrow this or adapt it. So I got a lot of my content from seeing other people make things.
Right.
I would agree with Adam too. I just wanted to add that going to a Maker Faire is important too, because I think that a lot of people don't understand still what a Maker Faire is. And going to one, and they're so successful in the diversity of things, and I think also just the openness of being able to talk to the people that have created this themselves and ask questions. It's very different than a science fair, and that's a very positive thing, because I think a science fair is so stale, and the focus is more on the bulletin boards and all the written things, where the Maker Faire is much more about the hands-on activities and having fun.
Yeah, and personal interaction, that kind of person-to-person engagement around, having a conversation about how you made it, what did you learn, what tools, why did you use that tool, what about this tool, thinking about what would you do next. That kind of interaction and communication and storytelling is really fundamental to the actual experience of Maker Faire, and it really, I think, is a positive learning experience for any student in terms of engaging and explaining and exchanging.
And I want to highlight that we put together a few checklists in the appendices of different kinds of questions that you can give to the kids to be prepared to explain the people and the process behind the projects. Those tips for how to tell the story and different kinds of tools that they can use besides just the old trifold are all in the back of the School Maker Faire playbook. And just thinking about the kinds of things that you can adapt from mini Maker Fairs, looking again at sort of that diverse range, I looked at, you want to have a combination of things that are demos that they can. A classic example of this is, can you find a 3D printer in your community that you could borrow for the day? We're planning to. I had this idea yesterday of we should really find out what are some good models that to print out ahead of time to have alongside the 3D printer and to be building so that it's a little bit more interesting than just seeing that flat bottom, like that very first layer that happens in that first hour of 3D printing. The kinds of things that where like they might watch a robotics, like a BattleBot area, those kinds of things are nice to have as demos where people are wandering by and just kind of engaging as spectators. But then you also want to have a good number of hands-on opportunities, both take-home things and things that they're doing there and adding to. And then finally, like really encouraging students to show off things that they've made either as part of a class project or hobbies that you've identified, and as Daniel said, gone to the kid and said that's wonderful, bring that here. And that means a lot of sort of that fact-finding and chatting with the kids. It's not something where we for the global events we do these called calls for makers, and you'll probably do something similar on a smaller scale internally. But there's the first step of putting out an application and seeing what you get in, but then looking for, like, do I have the diversity that I need? And then, like, having to have conversations with people to dig a little deeper than what they might realize that they have to share.
Yeah, when I'm coaching folks on doing the city fairs, part of what's fun too with Maker Faire is the energy created out of the juxtaposition of different types of making. So that if you've got somebody doing crochet that's like from the community, then you want to think all the way over to like what about hot rods or small robots or something more technical like that, and then you might bounce back and think about science, and is anybody doing a bio experiment or something like that could be part of it, or some chemistry experiment, and then you could bounce over to art and think about the cardboard or materials, and so kind of thinking in edges as you move through, like how do we program this to kind of create the most fun energy possible. Danielle, you've been in here in silent. Maybe do you want to introduce yourself and let us know who you are and if you've done a fair or if you're thinking about it?
She's still.
Yeah. Am I unmuted now?
Yeah, you're good. You're good.
I'm actually not sure I'm supposed to be in here.
You're totally welcome to be in here. Yes.
I have not done I've been to lots of Maker Fairs. I've been to the San Mateo Maker Faire several times, the Bay Area one, and the San Luis Obispo Mini Maker Faire. What we're doing at ours is a little bit different. We have I'm at UC Santa Barbara in a teacher education program, and we are having the students in the Science Methods course host a Maker Faire for their students in their practicum courses as their primary project of the year. So instead of doing a classroom project, they'll also be doing a classroom project, but they'll be doing a Maker Faire for their schools at UCSB. So we will have, I think, a large portion, probably higher percentage than most Maker Fairs, of hands-on student activity. So students making things at the fair, both individual take-home stuff and collaborative groups like Happy City at Nice Side, that kind of thing, where they're adding to a cardboard city. We have a 3D printer we'll have going, and we'll have some student-based work that will solicit from the teacher candidates' classroom. So there's a little bit of confusion because the adults are students, as are the children. The primary audience will be children of K through 6 level and their parents.
Great.
So that's what we're doing. It'll be in April, and we are just in the planning stages. But everybody's very excited, and while it's associated with the Science Methods course, the faculty in art and math and other literacy are also interested in and involved with the project. So there'll be a lot of content areas represented there.
Cool. And, well, so what about questions, you guys, or thoughts or comments at this point around this program? I mean, or tips? Any other?
I've got something. Go ahead.
Okay, sorry. My question is more about the facing inward or facing outward. I think that is something that we've struggled with as we've gotten bigger and doing more things. I think engaging the community is a positive, because you're able to bring in new ideas and maybe industry in different ways and get their ideas. But the downside is that it's logistically a little bit more complicated, and there may be other questions. So your thoughts about having it be for just the school students or for the general public?
Well, it seems to me that I think your points are well taken about it taking a little bit more energy and work to do that. I mean, I think the focus, if you've got the student work sort of handled, bringing in community can help tell the story of some of these new technologies that maybe you don't have on site at school. So maybe there's a local makerspace that's willing to kind of help tell this story about some of these new tools that makers are using, like Arduino and Raspberry Pi and 3D printing and laser cutting and all of these new digital fabrication tools that are so much a part of this movement and has accelerated all of this individual, some people are calling it the democratization of the maker tool set. It's all much cheaper now. So I think that's one thing that the outside community can help with. I think also what's really important, I believe, and what I think might be great about a School Maker Faire, you know, in contrast to maybe how some of the science fair models are going, is that we want to showcase lifelong learning. Like adults can model what it is to be a lifelong learner, and makers are lifelong learners. They're people that are constantly asking questions, trying new things, and building their knowledge base all the time. And I think that engaging community members and engaging even the principal to show his treehouse models, or you know, the mom to show her robot or whatever, is to some extent you know, a really positive thing to model. That making is not just what you do when you're in school and you're a kid.
And not just people associated with the school. I think, like as you said, like maker spaces or someone in the neighborhood is fine. It's just that we really, because we need to define this as something distinct from the global program, like really keeping the focus on the kids. And so if you're going to dip under, you know, that our recommendation is 70. If you're getting near to like only about half the things are kids, then that's really a time to graduate to being a global.
Right.
A city fair.
I mean,
it is different. It's a difference in your level of focus and you know, how much of it is the student or how much of it is the outside world, and you're engaging the outside world.
And I like to say, and that's a great problem to have, right? Like to have grown a community around your school, and what a great story to tell too, that your school was the seed of this maker community within the broader community, and that you've grown it to a city fair is fantastic, and we'd love to help guide you into that if that's what you're talking about, Daniel.
Oh, I don't think we're there yet, but I think thinking about the percentage of, you know, 70% for the students, but a 30% that is bringing in the outside community, especially the ones that are doing really amazing things. And if we do want to go to a city thing, we've got the Fresno Mini Maker Faire, which is just an hour away from us, so we can.
Right. Yeah, I think I really like having the adults as part of it, just because of that. I feel like there's a lot of, oh yeah, this is what you do when you're in school and you're a kid, and when you're an adult, you stand there with a cell phone. You know, I do think it's important to model adults as makers.
Yeah.
How about bringing like a sister school on board too? If you're getting to the point, you know, where if you're going to the outside community, that's one thing we're thinking about. You know, there's other schools in our area that don't have this maker mentality, so bring them in. We're thinking about bringing, you know, 20 or 30 kids just to come for the day to experience what we're doing, and then they take that with them and share it and spread it on.
Right. I mean, I think, as Michelle said, we are really in the early stages of this program. We put out a particular model, and we're seeking feedback. We understand there's a wide range of situations. We try to put a framework around it to help kind of define what it is, so that we can allow it to be registration based online, and you know, not a deep vetting process like our more city fairs are. So you know. But we're in the stage of learning from you all what it's like, and what are the models that work, what are the boundaries that work.
Can I share an experience that I had getting the first Maker Faire, or School Maker Faire, started?
Absolutely.
I went to 2 Maker Fairs, and I kind of had the general idea, and I knew I wanted to do a Maker Faire. And I had done like what we called it, a design tech showcase, where my design students were kind of just showing off their work. And we had all these other people come and kind of just view their furniture or little tinkering projects or whatever they had done. And people wanted to pick it up and play with it and kind of, you know, manipulate it. And I'm thinking, what am I doing here? Why are we just, you know, doing these static displays? We need to have a more engaging experience. So that's what kind of set us on the course to do our first School Maker Faire. But then it was hard for me to get other people on board, where the first Maker Faire was a lot of my energy. And I got in front of the faculty. We've got 400 students, maybe 100 faculty members, a little less. And I said, okay, this is what we're going to do. This is what a Maker Faire is. This is how you could be involved. Yeah, and nobody really got it. Nobody was like, they were they thought it was more of like a techie thing, or they didn't know computer programming enough. So they kind of misunderstood it. So on your website, you say to make the first one, just go be simple. Don't overwhelm yourself. with the first fair, because it's probably going to be a lot of your personal energy and your students, but it's a lot of you. But this year, I've already got people saying, oh, I know what I'm going to do this year, because they got the feel of it, and they now know that, doing knitting is great, or, doing something that they're passionate about, they can just do it, and it doesn't have to be super high tech. So I'm looking forward to the second year, and I think the first year is a big hump, getting all your graphics together, getting just the general feel and the community energized. But now it's going to be so much easier. It'll probably be a third of the work of the first one.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think that that first one is really important to get the folks there. Once they're there and experiencing it, some of the words you used earlier, like the whole informality aspect, the play aspect. Those are feeling, the experimentation aspect, the appreciation of projects in process. They don't have to be finished. It's a different mindset than a kind of more competition-based, a kind of more formal approach of other sorts of, the science fair model. And, I don't mean to disparage science fairs. We're trying to help people understand maybe what the distinction is with Maker Faire.
Within the Young Makers program, we always say that there are no winners and no losers, and that anything, but it's fair game. As long as it's cool, it's fair game. And what I like to think about when I look at a Maker Faire is that people are really voting with their feet, and this goes back to that idea of storytelling. So, like, no matter how cool a thing you've made, if you can't explain it to somebody and you can't get them engaged and interested in it as they're walking by, then that's a failure of, that's going to be a problem when you try to pitch this as something in real life, right? So this is a really great life skill for kids to learn, is like how to get someone as excited about the thing that they made as they themselves are. And if they're not excited about it, to pick something else that other people excited about, because that's so much more interesting and like a path that you should follow to go with your passion than to like go into something just because you think that's where you're gonna somehow achieve success by doing everything that everybody else did by like getting involved with 3D printing, for example, because that's what your teacher said to do. So really this is about helping kids find that passion and then tell the story and present and draw people in.
Can I ask a question to you guys? Where, in terms of extracting the student projects, were some of them, what was your process for getting them committed to the event? Did you have a formal sign-up? Did you have an online call for makers that you used, or was it more just you keeping track? Also, were you leveraging like after-school clubs or other clubs, or was it more individual making activity?
At our program, we sent out a call, and we also asked teachers in different groups. Sorry, I'm going to mute myself again here.
No, you're good. It's not feeding back. You're fine.
It's feeding back on me, though. So.
Oh, sorry.
So we have enrichment classes where the kids are doing a variety of making activities, so we would encourage them, oh, that's really great, let's show that at the Maker Faire. So we drew somewhat from classes, but most of it was by word of mouth, where we were going directly to them. Because we're small, we can do that, and really inviting them to come and share their different projects. And we even have this year we have a grant process where students can request funds to create a maker project, because some of these things, it takes money and they don't have that. So it could be buying things for their computer, or one kid wants to make a drum, and so they have to write up a proposal, but we have funds set aside to help them realize their projects. And then part of the stipulation of getting the funds is that they have to then show that at our Maker Faire.
That's cool.
It's really been good seed money to help encourage ideas, and some of those things where they have the idea but they just aren't quite there. This is that tipping point of, we'll help you pay for it in some sort of way.
Yeah.
I hope you could share that back. That sounds like a really interesting thing that others could probably use.
Yeah,
like how to run the sort of mini grants that you have.
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you do like a Google form call for makers, or just a paper one?
We did a paper one because most of the people that we were approaching, I mean, especially kindergartners, first, second, third graders, they're not too much into the computers yet. We did send out a general, in our school newsletter and a link that had a description of all of those things, but we found that the forum wasn't as helpful. I did have a forum, but very few people used it. It was almost more just come talk to Daniel and ask me questions, and then I can help encourage them in different ways. And another thing that we did do, getting back to the Maker Faire, we took a group of students to the Bay Area Maker Faire. So we arranged a field trip on a bus, and that was a great way for them to get lots of ideas. So that, and once we got back on the bus headed home, I went around and asked every single one, what did you like? What did you think? Think you want to do at our Maker Faire that we're going to have next year? And that was a great opportunity to get ideas and encourage people to participate.
Awesome. That's great. I want to highlight a couple of things that you, Daniel, said and that Sabrina said, which is working from the projects that the kids learn how to do. There's this idea in education that I'm sure you guys have heard of, like learn and turn. Where you learn how to do something and then you turn and teach someone else how to do it. And so even if they don't feel like experts yet, if they've fallen in love with some project that they've done in their enrichment classes, like figuring out a way to scale that up to do for lots of people, that's a huge challenge and a really interesting learning experience as well that we really want kids to have. And then you mentioned, like, if projects aren't done, I don't hear enough of these stories, and this one of my. I want so many more unfinished projects to be at Maker Faire and people finishing them there. Kids get so stressed out about the deadline, and I think it's really cool to see the process and people working on it. And I really want to encourage you to encourage your kids to bring that part of it to Maker Faire. Deadlines are cool, and it's really great to learn how to meet a deadline, but Maker Faire is really friendly that way.
Yeah. But I do think about back to that call for makers formality. If you are engaging the public or adults more, you might want to have that tandem digital form in addition to the paper stuff, the way you're tracking the ones in the students, because just in terms of managing, like, how many do you have? How much power do they need? Are they bringing something that needs 15 amps? Do they just have plugging in a computer? What, just those elements. Is it noisy? Or, the more complex and the more exhibits you have, the more, in a way, it's great to have a spreadsheet so that you're tracking it all and you know where to put everybody and that kind of a thing. But again, it is to some extent more about the end game of getting everybody in one place, and it's okay if it's a little messy, and it's okay if it's a little unfinished. I think that's in the spirit of making. That's all okay, but it does help when you have a handle on exactly who's going to be there.
Yeah, I agree that you want the flexibility, so if things don't work out well, just to roll with it. But you got to put in the legwork beforehand to make sure that everything is working out. Like, we did a call for makers and then a call for kind of facilitators or supporters. We had a couple parents or board members from our school came by, and I had a huge spreadsheet. We had 25 different displays and activities. And so I had all day mapped out, so who's going to be at which display at what time, and there's flexibility in that, but do the legwork ahead of time so you can enjoy the fair. I didn't want to be stuck, running up to my room to get an electrical cord, so you've got to list out, okay, what's the activity, who is it designed for, and what requirements do they have? Do they need a table? Do they need to be out of the sun? Get as much of that out of the way, and you're going to have a much better time at the fair. I had a blast, and I could kind of just relax and watch it happen, and I was kind of playing DJ and kind of set the mood, where I thought I did a good job of preparing ahead, and it was well worth it.
Yeah, that's really true, and also just getting a chance to go congratulate everybody and take a picture of their booth. I as a Maker Faire organizer, I just had my mini Maker Faire on Sunday, my city fair. And, one of my goals is to try to get around and do that as much as I can. It's wonderful to actually have the visual assets after the show, not just to, congratulate everybody, but to memorialize what happened and to then help share the story, as you're onboarding new families and new students and things like that. Did you have more in your slideshow, Michelle?
I did want to show that. Why is it not showing over here? It's so strange.
Maybe the screen share ended. Let's go back and figure it out.
I want to put a big plug in for that documentation and the sharing out. So as part of my looking around for people who are already doing a School Maker Faire, I think we're not going to be able to see it, but I found a number of lovely news reports and galleries and so forth. And this is something that we ask you to do as part of the oh, it's there.
Oh, it is. Oh, good.
It was.
Oh, brother.
Oh, yeah, wait. I'm seeing it on my screen. Are you guys seeing those pictures too?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just posting in, and sometimes you'll need to get media permission from the families to be able to post publicly. But this is the kind of stuff that's really powerful and can really boost what we're doing with this and get sponsorship for this program to make it huge and hit thousands of schools. So as much as you can do to send pictures. We've used a lot of the pictures from ACST. Thank you, Adam and Kelly Griffin, for those beautiful pictures. But to be able to show that making is happening, with all kinds of communities is so powerful and is really great for us to be able to tell the story and to be able to get more schools involved. So let me go to the next page. Oh, because you're screen sharing. So I just wanted to show you a few. They've also gone out to, got it now? Okay. People go to their, now it's not showing here.
It's all right, it's just slow.
It's just slow. It takes a while to update.
Yeah.
So going to your local media outlet to tell them that you're doing it so that they put some coverage, and then other schools in your community will then say, that is amazing, I want to do one as well. So
here's some media. This is just some examples of some of the stories that were out there. But again, just to clarify,
Jackson Hole. I love this one with the beautiful mountains in the background.
Yeah, it's great. Just to be clear, one of the distinctions between the city program, though, and the school program is that we're trying to not allow top-level domains like URLs with Maker Faire in them for the school. So if you have a school website, you can do a /Maker Faire page, but we don't want Jackson Hole Maker Faire website when there's actually could be a city fair for that domain. So that's one of the distinctions. But reaching out to press and getting exposure for the school program is awesome. Same thing with social media feeds, where we're asking that you do any social media work for the Maker Faire through the existing school social media feeds and not create new ones that are explicit for the School Maker Faire.
And I think this is the last slide in my deck. And I wanted to also encourage you, Piedmont, which they didn't join us today, but they were really instrumental in the playbook and in launching this program. They started at it as a city-facing fair, but it was really run by the Unified School District. And now they're one of the flagship School Maker Fairs. And they've been really generous in sharing all of the information that they use to get community support within the district or at the school level, including timelines and presentations and so forth, and they share that all out on their site. And if you have things like that, please share them with us so that we can share it back out, because a lot of people just don't even know how to get the momentum going on this big, heavy stone.
Yeah, and so if anybody's watching this video after the fact, in terms of sharing, we have a private G+ community for sharing assets, ideas, experiment images that we have just launched and we will be activating. So as a sharing forum for those of you who are registered Maker Faire organizers. I think
Adam actually has a couple of pictures. I don't know if you want to attempt to do this.
Yeah, I don't know. I just kind of put some of our key images from up there. It's just some of the graphics that I found useful. I needed something I created T-shirts for all the presenters. Thought that was cool. I made a couple big banners like we were all makers, and I used the Maker Faire logo a little bit. I used the School Maker Faire, and that just really added to the environment. You know, when you come in, I wanted a big banner, like a welcome thing. Fireworks would be cool, but you're not going to do that. But I wanted to feel like it was an event. It was open all day, and I wanted kids to say, "Wow, that was really fun," and not just, "Oh, here's a bunch of things on a table." I also made a map, and the map was really helpful. I put it everywhere so people would walk up to the event and they'd see an actual map of our campus with little circles of which event is where. And so they could start to look around and say, okay, this is what's here, and this is where I want to go. So you say they vote with their feet, and now they can kind of have a little more information about where they go.
That's great.
Yeah, one of our other, and I think this is in the branding guidelines, but I'm just going to share with you a window that has some pictures from our city branding guidelines, and maybe it's a little tough to see, but maybe I can zoom in on them. There's these plastic pennant string flags are really associated with our brand, and you can see
here.
Can you see?
Can you scroll around again?
There we go. See how that ceiling is zigzagged with these plastic, really easily obtainable pennant strings. This can make a boring room look really fun. It can change the whole feeling of a classroom or of a hallway just using these simple flags that are available in most party supply stores. They're called pennant strings. We use them if we have to barricade something off, or make a circle around something. They're just really, really kind of powerful, fun branding element.
Good.
And can be important in that wayfinding too that you were just talking about, Adam.
Yeah. Any other last thoughts, or we're kind of closing out on our hour. For folks thinking about starting the Maker Faire, or any other last tips.
On top of what you guys said about protecting the Maker brand, when I was starting my first fair, it was really enticing to go online because there's all these Maker logos, and I saw this great picture from the Austin Mini Maker Faire. I'm like, wow, I don't really feel like making a poster. Why can't I just take their poster, put my name on it? So it's tough not to do that. And I actually went through and we got official permission to use that. And I found that if you find something online that you want to use, contact the people, and that maker mentality will probably carry through. And they said, no problem, you can use our poster. So that saved me a couple hours, and I had a really nice poster, and it was I had official license to use it. So take that extra step, talk to the people, and they'll probably just let you use it. Like any of the stuff I create, take it. I'm proud of you if you want to use it.
That's a big point for us to actually think about building more of a, I hope that we'll build more and more of a repository of visual assets that you can just actually pull down, leverage, and alter, because no one, in this context, we need to make it as easy as possible for you all to set the tone, because I think the branding is really part of setting the tone, and the marketing assets are part of setting this tone of playful, of inspiring, of inspired, of fun. And so, we will work on that in terms of making that easier and having some more example things that you can just plug stuff into.
I just wanted to say thank you. I'm really looking forward to having a community where we can share out ideas, and just hearing other people talk about how they do their Mini Maker Faire and what has worked or hasn't worked is really valuable, because it's a different kind of an event than most other school events that we organize, and so building that community is going to be a great help for our kids.
Awesome. Well, I really appreciate you guys all joining for this inaugural sort of welcome to the School Maker Faire program hangout, and we'll look forward to doing more to celebrate the all the learnings and more members of this community.
And we're having a hangout on Tuesday for all those 850 or however many of them want to come in for this kind of office hours and questions, as you guys just had with us. And you're welcome to come there as seasoned pros, or Danielle, if you want to join in that as someone who's still got questions. You can as well. We're we're really excited to get a lot more schools. We think that this would be great to have in lots of places, and whatever we can do to facilitate that. And thank you. I learned so much from all of you today as well.
All right, until next time. Thank you guys very much. Ciao.
Yeah. Thank you all. Take care.
Thanks.